I didn't expect to be making another video with this title so soon, but it's true, Saros is my game of the year. So far. Saros, for anyone unfamiliar, is a bit of a smorgasbord of a video game, but to put it simply, it's a third-person action game with some heavy roguelike mechanics going on. You start each run at the beginning of a new biome. As you go through the biome, weapon and ability upgrades can be found. If you die at any point in your run, you start the biome over with an entirely new layout to the biome, but if you beat the boss at the end, you proceed to the next biome. Contrary to other roguelike games though, there isn't a lot of build creation going on. You're given different weapons, but what you take is a matter of preference rather than some kind of meta or synergy between your abilities and your weapons for the most part. In Saros, you play as Arjun Devraj, an enforcer for Soltari, a corporation that is mining the planet of Carcosa for Lucenite, which can be used to upgrade your stats and other abilities on the skill tree. You arrive on Carcosa as part of Echelon 4 to investigate the disappearance of Echelon 1, 2, and 3. It isn't that cut and dry though, as Arjun is also looking for Nitya, his significant other who was part of Echelon 1. I'll be totally honest, this aspect of the story isn't what really piqued my interest. It's good and it makes for some fantastic cutscenes, but the part of the story that really intrigued me was the other members of Echelon 4. On Carcosa, there are periodic eclipses, and as they start to happen, or as you, the player, start to trigger them, which we'll go into later, slowly but surely the other members of your crew start to go mad. They start talking gibberish about the calling of the sun and the color yellow and the gods and all this mumbo jumbo. Every time you come back from a run, they're just a bit crazier than before, or someone new has caught the mind bug and start to talk crazy.
Stack. Arjun. I thought you were. Oh well. Huh.
I won't spoil anything that happens, but from a story perspective, this is really what kept my attention. The meat and potatoes of Saros comes from its gameplay, its visuals, and its sound. Let's start first with the gameplay. Everything in Saros just feels so tight and responsive. Every movement you make on your controller can immediately be seen or felt. Platforming sections are challenging, but with the movement feeling as good as it does, the challenge quickly became something I actively looked forward to rather than dreading it. In combat, you have the ability to use a grappling hook, use a dash, and shoot your gun all at the same time, and it makes for an electric combat experience. Throw in meleeing for shielded enemies, and it legitimately feels like a playground for you to just dash around in and fuck up some aliens. It is astounding how Housemarque make all these mechanics feel so natural and so smooth while using them all within seconds of each other. I've heard constant praise for how Returnal uses the abilities of the DualSense to its fullest, and I completely understand where that praise comes from now. Outside of how it feels, the combat is awesome too. It's what Housemarque calls a bullet ballet, but it's often referred to as bullet hell, and while I respect Housemarque, I'm going to stick to the bullet hell name because goodness gracious, the feeling of pure anxiety I got from the combat in this game is hellish, and I say that in an extremely positive way. In Saros, there are 3 different kinds of projectiles you have to dodge. There are blue projectiles, which can either be dodged or absorbed into your shield, which can help build up energy for your power weapon, which is basically just a way to do some decent chunk damage. There are yellow projectiles, which can be dodged and as a last resort can be blocked by your shield, but when they're blocked by your shield, they build up corruption, which takes up space on your life bar, limiting what your maximum life can be. And finally, there are red orbs that can be dodged or parried back to your enemy. I think the parrying system is as close to bad as the combat gets. It doesn't feel like parrying is worth it because with so much going on around you, it's easy to mistime your parry. If you do time it correctly, it doesn't do very much damage, but if you mistime it, the red orbs do crazy damage. It isn't truly bad, to be clear, but they aren't worth interacting with in any unique way other than dodging them. There are two different versions of the biomes. There's the regular version, absent of the yellow orbs I talked about, and then there's the eclipse version of the biomes. Eventually you'll come across this thing. Arjun sticks his hand in, and it immediately triggers the eclipse. This basically turns things to hyperdrive and makes all enemies more difficult and gives them these yellow orbs I was talking about. During the review process, I saw a lot of people saying that this game is easier than Returnal. I'm not gonna lie, man. If that's the case, I am never going back to try and play a Returnal again. Try as I might to play this game with no abilities to help me, I lasted about 3 biomes before I said, fuck it, man. Let's just turn this game into Doom. You can judge me all you want, it's my experience. I made this game feel just like if Doom Eternal was third person, and I had a fucking blast with it. But be weary, if you are a more principled gamer than I am, and you pride yourself on beating everything on the hardest difficulty you possibly can with giga modifiers, first of all, go to therapy. But secondly, just be weary that this game is hard as fuck. I see this as a major positive though. The fact that I can turn this game into basically a boomer shooter, while someone else can turn it into a full-blown third-person shooter Souls-like, is awesome. I've seen a few people point to the game's enemy variety as one of its weaknesses, and while I can fully recognize that there's not a ton of enemy variety, I honestly found learning each enemy and their attacks made the combat feel more refined and like it was truly up to me whether I died or not, rather than having to learn new enemies every single time I went into a new biome. That is, of course, just my experience though. I can totally see why someone would see it as a negative. The way Saros sounds is truly on a different level from any game I've ever played. The sounds of pure dread and anguish from literally every single enemy and the environments you're in set the tone in such a stark way. Every little enemy sounds like the worst thing possibly conceived by a human brain, and then you step into a boss arena and hear the harrowing screeches of a boss like the Ancient, and those little enemies start to sound like puppies. But it's not just the sound of the enemies or the world, the sound of Arjun's boots on the ground, or the guns. Literally every single thing in this game sounds so satisfying. I don't understand how a game like this, with such sensory overload, can sound so damn good, dude. If Saros doesn't win Best Audio Design at the Game Awards, I will truly be shocked. I will also be shocked if it doesn't win for Best Art Direction, because holy moly. It truly does speak for itself, but man, every single damn time you load into a new biome and the sun is just staring back at you and you have all this massive architecture around you and the vegetation growing and the alien technology, it's just all so unique and intimidating but beautiful at the same time as it is horrifying. Every single enemy as well, from the annoying flying eyeball fuckers to the bosses, they're all just designed so perfectly. I cannot commend the art team behind this game enough. They found a way to make a world that is so horrifying and beautiful at the same time. So full props to them. Housemarque found a successful formula with Returnal, and in my opinion did nothing but improve upon it with Saros. They made it more accessible to people like me, while also tacking on some of the best art and sound direction in gaming history. And to make it even better, the gameplay is without a doubt the most action-packed and smooth experience I have had all year. While the core story wasn't something that piqued my interest in a major way, Arjun's crew at Echelon 4 provided an interesting enough journey during their time with him in Carcosa that had me invested in at least parts of the story. I would give Saros a 9 out of 10. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Saros is an incredible game. If you have a PlayStation, I truly believe it is a must-buy. As far as what's coming up on this channel, I don't really have any major plans. I'm just kind of making whatever comes to my mind and whatever kind of drives my creative spirit, so to speak. But I'm always live with my friends on Late Night Grin talking about pro wrestling. So feel free to go check that out. Support in any way you can. $1.99 to get you in the door. Gets you a ridiculous amount of content. So yeah, thank you again for watching. Again, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment what your current game of the year is. Goodbye.